Xiao Yan did not pay much attention on Hun Mietian after killing him in a quick and simple manner. With Hun Mietian's strength, he did not possess much of a threat towards Xiao Yan. After his spiritual strength had stepped into the D state, Xiao Yan was already able to completely overlook Hun Miesheng. Xiao Yan flicked his finger gently. He glanced at the corpse with hollow eyes in front of him in an indifferent manner. With a wave of his hand, he directly shattered the corpse, after which he frowned and looked at the chaotic battleground in the sky. This was the first time Xiao Yan had seen a war on such scale. The terrifying strength that the Hun clan had displayed had once again caused Xiao Yan's face to become grave. The alliance force present was a combination of the Gu clan, Lei clan, Yin clan, and the Sky Mansion alliance. The number of experts present had reached a relatively spectacular level. Despite this, they still appeared to be in a stalemate. Xiao Yan's eyes swept over the battleground, after which he lifted his head and looked at the black fog which permeated the sky. There was a continuous stream of experts rushing out from within the black cloud. With Xiao Yan's current strength, it was difficult for anyone below the 7-star Doshang class to catch his attention. However, Xiao Yan vaguely felt as though the black fog still hid many auras that even he was extremely afraid of for some unknown reason. This was a faint, weak feeling. If it was not because Xiao Yan's soul had reached the D state, it was impossible for him to detect it in such detailed manner. However, this feeling caused Xiao Yan's expression to become increasingly grave. The strength of the Hun clan did appear to be unusually terrifying. The battle today might well be a bitter fight if this continues. Xiao Yan's eyes flashed. Suddenly, they were rotated. He looked at the north of the battleground. Black fog churned, and a couple of mighty auras surged. Clearly, there were many experts from the Hun clan seated there. Even the 3 clans and the Sky Mansion alliance had suffered many deaths in this place.
Hun Feng.
A cold glint flashed in Xiao Yan's eyes as he looked at the somewhat young figure within a group. It was rumored that this person was the most outstanding person amongst the younger generation of the Hun clan. It was likely that he would be able to threaten the Hun clan if he could capture this person. Chi. This thought flashed across Xiao Yan's mind. He smiled coldly and moved. His body turned into a black light that hurried towards a black fog region. Bang! Hun Feng had a cold expression as he grabbed the head of an expert from the Yin clan. He looked at the latter's horrified expression. A scarlet and ferocious expression flashed across his eyes. Fresh blood erupted with the latter's brains. After which Hun Feng merely tossed that person aside. You are useless. Hun Feng rubbed his hands and spoke indifferently. There were 4 Hun clan elders who had reached the 4-star Doshang class, guarding behind him. Through this, one could see that the Hun clan greatly valued his safety. Young Master Hun Feng, let's withdraw a little. There are far too many experts from the 3 clans nearby. A gray-haired old man glanced around him before suddenly speaking. This place could be considered to be a little deep. Although the true experts from the 3 clans had basically been held back, it was always right to be a little careful. Let's go, Hun Feng, who had a good time being on a killing spree, frowned but did not object. He nodded and was about to pull back. Ha ha, young Master Hun Feng, you actually dare to simply leave after killing someone? Aren't you being a little too free and easy? However, a faint laughter suddenly sounded as Hun Feng was turning around. He lifted his head in a startled manner and saw a black-clothed young man appearing above his head at some unknown moment. The latter was smilingly looking at him. Xiao Yan, you have actually escaped from being chased by Hun Miesheng? Hun Feng laughed coldly. His expression had changed slightly after seeing the black-clothed young man. Chased? Xiao Yan was startled. He immediately came to a sudden comprehension. It seemed that the speed in which killed Hun Mietian earlier was far too quick. Hence, it did not manage to attract much attention. Young Master Hun Feng, hurry up and leave. Xiao Yan's spiritual state has reached the D state. His strength has far surpassed what appears on the surface. Hun Miesheng is likely already killed by him. A white-haired old man from amongst the four elders guarding Hun Feng had an extremely sharp pair of eyes. His heart sunk after seeing Xiao Yan's expression. He subsequently cried out in a low voice. Hun Feng's face twitched involuntarily after hearing these words. His eyes were filled with dissatisfaction as they looked at Xiao Yan. Back at the demonic flame realm, Hun Feng completely need not fear Xiao Yan. However, after only a few years, the pressure that the latter gave him was actually not any weaker than the grand elders within the clan. Move. Although he was dissatisfied, Hun Feng clearly understood that if he was to fight with Xiao Yan with his current strength, he would not likely end up dead. Hence, he did not dare to bite off more than he could chew. His body moved, and he hurried towards the distant black clouds in the sky. The four elders behind stared cautiously at Xiao Yan as they withdrew. Xiao Yan merely smiled after seeing five of them leaving. He clenched his hand, for clusters of brilliant fire glow erupted from his hand. They quickly agglomerated into four head-sized fire lotuses that shot towards the four elders with lightning-like speed. Charge! A chill rose on the faces of the four elders after they saw Xiao Yan persistently pursuing them. Their sleeves shook and python-like chains rushed out. The fire lotuses had arrived the moment the chain was shot out, after which they adhered onto the chains. The four elders could not escape no matter how they struggled. Bang! The fire lotuses suddenly exploded while the four elders were preparing to toss the chains aside. For brilliant lines of flames flew along the chains. In an instant, the flames struck on the hands of the four elders and subsequently invaded their bodies. Boom! After the line of fire invaded their bodies, the clothes of the four elders were directly turned into dust. Soon after, pink fire seedling escaped from their pores. The sizzling sound was extremely deafening. Sharp and miserable screech continued to be emitted from the mouths of the four members of the Hun clan, while they were crazily unleashing their Do Qi to extinguish the flame within their bodies. Xiao Yan's expression was indifferent as his eyes swept over the four of them. He flicked his finger gently. Four wisps of wind shot out. The four elders of the Hun clan spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Their bodies were like the broken wings of birds as they swiftly landed onto the ground. After which, they were surrounded by the experts from the three clans below. Hun Feng's expression had finally become ugly after he saw that the four elders, who had reached the 4-star Do Sheng class, were actually so worthless in Xiao Yan's hands. He quickly unleashed his maximum speed and hurriedly fled. I have said that you will not be able to escape. Hun Feng's body had just moved when a voice that was filled with an endless chill was suddenly transmitted from behind him. The former shrunk his eyes. He flipped his hand and a black flame churned. An incomparably fierce palm strike suddenly erupted. Bang! The ferocious palm wind from Hun Feng was just unleashed when it seemed to have met with an invisible barrier. A loud sound appeared and the former's hand felt a bone-piercing pain. His strength was reflected back and directly caused a mouthful of fresh blood to surge through his throat. However, it was finally forcefully swallowed by Hun Feng. Hun Feng swallowed a mouthful of fresh blood. His heart trembled from shock. The two of them were completely at two different levels. Hun Feng was just about to use his secret technique to increase his speed as this thought flashed across his mind when a somewhat icy cold hand gently appeared on his neck. The iciness caused his body to stiffen. Ancestor, save me. A sharp scream was emitted from Hun Feng's mouth as his body stiffened. Ancestor? Xiao Yan's eyes narrowed after hearing Hun Feng's voice. His eyes swiftly swept over the battleground in the sky. Currently, Hun Tiendi, the nihility-devouring flame, and the four demon saints had been held back. Just who is this ancestor of Hunfeng? Bang! The black cloud in the sky suddenly churned intensely while this doubt flashed across Xiao Yan's heart. After which, the black cloud surged and an elderly figure, who appeared to be about to die, slowly descended. At the same time, a vast and mighty terrifying aura, which did not lose to the black submerged king of the Gu clan, Gu Lai, suddenly swept apart. 8-star Dosheng? Xiao Yan's eyes shrunk slightly as he sensed this incomparably powerful aura. The Hun clan was actually hiding such an expert? Young friend, why don't you let this useless descendant of Mayav? The elderly figure slowly stepped forward. He appeared in front of Xiao Yan with just a step. The winkle-covered elderly face was covered with smiles, and his tone was extremely friendly. Who are you? Xiao Yan smiled coldly and asked. Ugh, I am Hun Yuanian. Haha, a useless old man who had died in Xiao Xian's hands back then. The old man laughed. Xiao Yan could sense the former smile had become a lot darker when mentioning the words Xiao Xian. You do not appear like a dead person. Xiao Yan frowned slightly. This old fellow's appearance was far too mysterious. He must be cautious. However, he wondered just how many of these experts, who had never appeared in the past, did the Hun clan had. If a couple more of them appeared, it was likely that even this alliance army today would not be able to do anything to the Hun clan. Even Xiao Yan felt some unease in his heart as he thought of this. This Hun clan was indeed far too unfathomable. Hun Yuantian laughed. However, he did not reply this question. He smilingly said, Why don't you hand him over to me? This alliance of yours is really insufficient if you wish to retain our Hun clan. Is that so? Xiao Yan's eyes became slightly cold. He suddenly increased the strength of his arm, which was holding onto Hun Feng. This caused the latter's face to turn purple as he continued to struggle. Hun Yuantian sighed helplessly upon seeing this scene. He did not show any signs of being threatened. Faint black aura seeped out from within his body. Immediately, his shriveled hand quickly emitted a rotten stench. Finally, he moved and gently slammed towards Xiao Yan. It was possible for Xiao Yan to detect a somewhat mysterious dead aura from that shriveled bone-like hand. Since you refuse to listen to nice words, you can just go and die. It is not up to you to decide who should live and who should die. Xiao Yan involuntarily laughed coldly after seeing Hun Yuantian rushing over in a flash. His hand, which was grabbing onto Hun Feng, increased its strength. The latter was also struggling crazily. Xiao Yan, ancestor will not let you off. Hun Feng's expression was purple. He viciously stared at Xiao Yan. Suddenly, his body began to swell intensely. The dou qi within his body also became wild and violent. Self-destruct huh? Xiao Yan's expression did not change after he saw this scene. He suddenly increased the strength of his arm. A crack sound appeared, and he directly broke Hun Feng's neck. Although Hun Feng's neck was broken, his body continued to swell rapidly. Finally, it emitted a bang. An earth-shaking energy storm exploded along with a bloody fog. The blood fog slowly scattered before disappearing. However, Xiao Yan's body continued to float in the sky. His vast and mighty spiritual strength had formed an invisible barrier around him. The attack that Hun Feng had created from self-destructing did not cause him any harm. Qi. Xiao Yan's eyes swept over the place in an indifferent manner. He quickly took a step back as the space in front of him fluctuated. An elderly figure appeared in a flash. A palm wind containing a rich, deathly aura adhered over Xiao Yan's chest as it flew past. Hun Yuantian's body appeared in a flash after his palm missed. He glanced at the spot where Hun Feng had self-destruct. His winkle-covered face contained some gloominess. Immediately, he flipped his hand and a soul rushed out from within the black fog. Finally, it entered his sleeve. Brat, I will definitely make you suffer. Hun Tian stared densely at Xiao Yin after retrieving the trace of Hun Feng's soul. The smile on his face had finally completely disappeared. He did not expect that Xiao Yin would be this vicious. The latter did not give him any opportunity to rescue Hun Feng. Instead, Xiao Yin had simply launched a killing strike. If it was not because Hun Feng had decisively chose to self-destruct and allow a part of his soul to escape, it was likely that he would have been completely destroyed by Xiao Yin. Even though this was the case, this would cause Hun Feng great harm. An old fellow who won't die is like a parasite. Allow me to be the one to send you off. Xiao Yin laughed coldly. He appeared completely unafraid. Although his Douqi was merely at the 6-star intermediate level, he had the qualification to fight against an 8-star Dousheng by simply relying on his D-state spiritual strength. Although Hun Yuantian was powerful, he was not as strong as Lei Ying and Yan Ji. According to Xiao Yan's guess, this old fellow has likely only reached the initial 8-star Dousheng class. Xiao Yin would not be afraid of him in a real fight. The members of the Xiao clan always has such razor-sharp tongue. I will allow you to enjoy what is called a fate worse than death once you land in my hands. Hun Yuantian's expression was densely cold. He parted his mouth, revealed his yellow teeth, and spoke sinisterly. Hun Yuantian's finger moved without leaving a trace as he spoke. Traces of invisible fluctuation suddenly surged from behind Xiao Yin. Finally, they entwined into an invisible net that suddenly covered Xiao Yin. At the same time, Hun Yuantian also shot forward and appeared in front of Xiao Yin in the blink of an eye. His stench-filled palm directly smashed onto Xiao Yan's chest. Bang! Hun Yuantian's palm was half an inch from Xiao Yan's chest when it suddenly stilled. A layer of invisible barrier had appeared on his palm. Both parties had ruthlessly collided. The frightening force had directly caused the surrounding space collapsed and formed many crack lines. Displaying your spiritual strength in front of me. What a joke. Xiao Yin observed Hun Yuantian. He laughed. A thought passed through his mind. Vast and mighty spiritual strength surged from him. In almost an instant, he had shattered the invisible spiritual net behind. Immediately, fierce pink flame seeped out from within his body, causing it to turn into a crystal-clear pink glass in the blink of an eye. Xiao Yan's aura had soared greatly after he used the Extermination Fire Lotus. Soon after, a flame quickly gathered on his palm. A 6-colored fire lotus was formed. The current Xiao Yin needed to only think about it to use the Extermination Fire Lotus. The terrifying strength of a D-state soul had raised the speed of its formation by many times. Buzz buzz. Waves after waves of exterminating heat waves swiftly spread after the fire lotus was formed. Soon after, Xiao Yin flicked his finger. A fire lotus was accompanied by a brilliant fire tail as it directly shot towards Hun Yuantian's head. Although Xiao Yan's actual strength was still at the 6-star Dousheng class, the might of the Extermination Fire Lotus was many times stronger than before. This increase was brought about by his D-state soul. Deathly Silence Gate. Hun Yuantian's expression was slightly solemn as he sensed the destructive ripple being emitted from the brilliant fire lotus. Both of his hands had formed many strange seals. Immediately, a rich black fog surged out from within his palm. It turned into a huge black door, which had been filled with a mysterious aura. The door was opened and a black hole like darkness was revealed. No one knew just what kind of mysterious realm it led to. Swoosh! The Extermination Fire Lotus flew across the sky. Finally, it exploded just outside of the Deathly Silence Gate. Immediately, a terrifying destructive storm swept apart. Humph! Absorb it. The storm was reflected within Hun Yuantian's eyes. He laughed in a dark and cold manner. A terrifying suction force was suddenly emitted. At the end, the 10,000 feet large firestorm had actually been swallowed into the huge gate. Is this the Deathly Silence Gate? A surprise flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes after he saw this scene. It was not because Hun Yuantian was able to easily deal with the extermination fire lotus. Instead, it was due to Hun Yuantian possessing such a mysterious object. You actually dare to reveal such tricks in front of me. This Deathly Silence Gate of mine was created from an elite Do Di from the ancient times. It is able to devour everything. Hun Yuantian involuntarily laughed strangely after being aware of Xiao Yan's surprise. This Deathly Silence Gate was extremely strange. This was because this was completely different from an ordinary Do skill. It was not even possible to classify it as a kind of Do skill. Instead, it was more appropriate to describe it as a kind of realm being created through one's training. Hun Yuantian had been training for hundreds of years in order to successfully master this Deathly Silence Gate and enable it to possess such a might. The space inside the door was filled with a deathly aura. Even a 7-star Doshang would likely be eroded and killed by the deathly aura if he was sucked inside and could not escape. After his death, the essence blood of his would become nourishment for the Deathly Silence Gate, allowing it to become even stronger. During the ancient times, many experts had fought to snatch this Deathly Silence Gate. It was unexpected that Hun Yuantian was actually able to create it. It is indeed a good thing. Xiao Yan licked his lips. Even he was a little familiar with this Deathly Silence Gate. Your essence, blood, and soul will likely greatly increase the strength of my Deathly Silence Gate. Hun Yuantian's body flashed and appeared above the huge door. He sat down and his eyes stared at Xiao Yan in a sinister manner. Immediately, the seal formed by his hands changed. Black light suddenly surged from within the large gate. It turned into a black light ray that was dozens of feet in size and suddenly shot out. The speed of the light was extremely quick. It had enveloped around Xiao Yan after it was shot out. Brat, you should head to hell and accompany your ancestor Xiao Xian. Hun Yuantian laughed in a dense voice. A terrifying suction force had suddenly erupted from within the Deathly Silence Gate. The light shrunk and entered the huge gate in a flash. Xiao Yan, who was wrapped by the ray of light, had also disappeared. Hun Yuantian's face became even denser after Xiao Yan was absorbed into the Deathly Silence Gate. No one who had entered the Deathly Silence Gate can come out alive. Once the deathly aura inside eroded all of Xiao Yan's Do Qi, the life and death of the latter would completely be determined by the former's mood. Humph, a group unruly crowd, actually has the delusion of flattening our Hun clan. Once we are fully prepared, everyone here can forget about escaping. Hun Yuantian lifted his head after capturing Xiao Yan. His eyes glanced at this incomparably chaotic battleground, after which they gathered onto the thick, dark cloud in the sky and let out a low and deep laughter. The dark black space was filled with a deathly aura. Even Do Qi had become weak in the face such an aura. Xiao Yan's body appeared in a place covered by deathly aura. He looked at this dark black and mysterious place before a strange smile surfaced on his face. He muttered softly, Hun Yuantian, I shall help keep this treasure for you. The purifying demonic lotus flame suddenly swept out from within Xiao Yan's body after his voice sounded. Even those deathly aura was unable to approach him under this great heat. Xiao Yan quickly shut his eyes. A vast and endless spiritual strength erupted from within his body. Within a short moment, it had wrapped around the dark black realm, after which his body suddenly disappeared. He was already in a dark region the next time he appeared. The middle of this place was a black stone, which hid a great amount of deathly aura. There was a spiritual fluctuation on the black stone. It was the spiritual imprint Hun Yuantian had left within this Deathly Silence Gate. It was precisely because of this that the latter was able to use the Deathly Silence Gate. However, if this thing was removed by another, He would also lose his control over the deathly silence gate. The cold smile on Xiao Yan's face became denser as he looked at the black stone. Capturing Xiao Yan, whose soul had reached the D state, was the biggest mistake of Hun Yuantian. Bang! Hun Yuantian exploded a Dosheng elder of the Gu realm with a palm strike. Black chi rose from his palm, and a mini black gate appeared. Traces of bloody chi swiftly surged into the black gate. It is really a strength that causes others to be fascinated. Hun Yuantian revealed a smile on his face as he sensed the increasingly dense deathly aura within the deathly silence gate. However, he was about to once again find a new target when his expression suddenly changed. This was because he discovered that his connection with the deathly silence gate had suddenly weakened. This is bad. This unexpected change caused Hun Yuantian's heart to sink. He hurriedly attempted to enter the deathly silence gate when he suddenly discovered that his connection with it had actually been completely broken. Swoosh! Hun Yuantian's heart trembled after the connection was lost. That black gate actually directly flew out. It swelled with the wind. A light figure flashed and sat above the huge gate. The figure smilingly looked at Hun Yuantian and laughed. "Thank you for your gift." Hun Yuantian was dull for an instant after seeing this scene. His eyes quickly turned blood red.